Welcome to Daily Stories #1 in today's feature. We spotlight Ruth Daniels, a visionary Black entrepreneur whose determination and business acumen have shattered glass ceilings and paved the way for others to follow. Ruth's journey brings us to a crucial moment, a meeting that could secure the future of her latest venture of feminist housing development, aimed at revitalizing the community she grew up in. Ruth steps into the grand marble lobby of Pinnacle First Bank, her presence commanding yet graceful. Her heels click against the stone floor, a metonym of her resolve with every step. She carries the weight of her community's hopes and her own unyielding ambition. The lobby, with its towering columns and sprawling spaces, is bustling with activity, yet Ruth's focus remains undisturbed. She approaches the reception desk with a composed smile, her eyes reflecting a mix of purpose and anticipation. "Good morning, I'm Ruth Daniels, here for my 10 a.m. appointment with Mr. Porter," she announces to the teller. The teller's eyes flicker with a hint of recognition, then uncertainty, as she asks Ruth to take a seat. As Ruth settles into one of the sleek leather chairs, her mind races through her meticulously prepared pitch. This meeting isn't just a formality. It's the culmination of years of hard work and planning. Her project promises not only to provide affordable housing, but to empower a community through inclusive and sustainable living spaces. Ruth glances at her watch. 9 a.m., 5 minutes early. She breathes deeply, steadying herself for the conversation ahead. Little does she know, the day will unfold in ways she never anticipated, testing her patience and resolve, but also setting the stage for a profound shift in how business is done at Pinnacle First Bank. As Ruth Daniels sits in the sleek waiting area, the minutes start to stretch longer than they should. It's 10:00 a.m., 15 minutes past her scheduled meeting time with Mr. Samuel Porter, and the bustling activity in the bank doesn't seem to slow down for anyone, least of all for her. The initial patience that cloaked Ruth's demeanor begins to thin as she observes other customers being promptly attended to. Their brief waits starkly contrast with her own prolonged delay. She watches as people walk in and out, greeted with quick handshakes and immediate invitations into private offices. Each interaction, a sharp reminder of her own stagnant situation. By 10:30 a.m., Ruth's composed exterior masks a simmering frustration. She approaches the reception desk once more, her tone still polite but now edged with firmness. "Excuse me, could you please check if Mr. Porter is aware of our appointment?" she inquires the teller. A young woman with a nervous smile fumbles with her computer before reassuring Ruth that Mr. Porter will be with her shortly. Ruth returns to her seat, her eyes briefly meeting those of a few bank employees, who quickly look away, their whispers barely audible over the hum of the busy bank. The air is thick with unspoken tension, and Ruth's presence seems to have disrupted more than just the daily workflow. As the clock strikes 11 a.m., Ruth stands, her patience waning. This time, her approach to the reception is more determined. "I was scheduled for 10 a.m. It's now an hour later and I have not been seen," she states, her voice carrying a calm authority that commands attention. The teller stammers an apology and picks up the phone, presumably to nudge Mr. Porter. Finally, at 11 a.m., Mr. Porter emerges. His arrival does little to ease the tension. His apology for the delay is perfunctory, lacking genuine remorse. Ruth's treatment at the bank, a place where professionalism should be paramount, begins to paint a clear picture of disregard, possibly rooted in deeper unspoken biases. Ruth Daniels, standing in the bustling bank lobby after an hour's delay, finally faces Mr. Samuel Porter. His presence is polished yet aloof, a stark contrast to Ruth's visible frustration. The formalities of apologies are exchanged, but Ruth senses a dismissive undertone in his words. It's clear he underestimates her, perhaps intentionally, based on nothing more than her appearance and the color of her skin. As they proceed to Mr. Porter's office, the air thickens with unspoken tensions. Ruth's stride is firm, her resolve unshaken, but her mind races with the implications of what's happening. Is this merely inefficiency or something more insidious? The walls of the bank, lined with portraits of past presidents, none of whom share her heritage, seem to answer her question inside the office. Mr. Porter gestures for Ruth to take a seat. His manner patronizing, he begins reviewing her file, his questions pointed and unnecessary, probing into areas unrelated to the financials. "Why is it necessary to have a feminist angle on this housing project?" He asks, his tone skeptical. Ruth replies with composure, explaining the community impact and the need for inclusive development. Yet Mr. Porter seems more intent on finding flaws than understanding the vision. Each question feels like a test, a challenge to her legitimacy as a developer and a leader. The meeting drags on, each minute stretching longer than the last. Ruth's responses are crisp and factual, but internally she is seething. This was supposed to be a routine finalization, not an interrogation, Mr. Porter's reluctance to proceed, without scrutinizing every detail, feels less like diligence and more like deliberate obstruction. As they approach the 2-hour mark, a knock at the door abruptly changes the atmosphere. The regional board members have arrived unexpectedly, and among them is Thomas Grayson, a known advocate for diversity and inclusion. His entrance is timely. His gaze sweeps the room, landing on Ruth with a mixture of concern and apology. Mr. Porter, caught off guard, scrambles to introduce Ruth in the project. Ruth seizes the moment, her voice clear and strong, detailing the delays and challenges she's faced. Not just today, but throughout her dealings with the bank. She articulates the broader implications of her project and how it aligns with the bank's stated commitments to community, development, and diversity. The board members listen intently, their expressions shifting from surprise to concern. Mr. Grayson steps forward, his demeanor turning serious. "It seems we have much to discuss," he says, turning to Mr. Porter, with a look that promises a thorough review, not just of Ruth's project, but of the bank's policies and practices. In the presence of the board, Ruth Daniels stands as a symbol of resilience and integrity. Her detailed account of the day's events and the systemic barriers she has faced at the bank resonates deeply with the board members, particularly with Thomas Grayson, who nods thoughtfully as she speaks. As the meeting unfolds, it becomes clear that this isn't just about securing financing for a housing project. It's about challenging and changing the institutional behavior that has allowed discrimination to fester unnoticed. Mr. Grayson, acting on his commitment to diversity and inclusion, requests a private meeting with Mr. Porter to discuss the matter further. Meanwhile, Ruth steps outside, her heart heavy yet hopeful. The corridor feels different now, as if her words have already begun to echo through the halls of power. She reflects on how her individual struggle has illuminated a much larger issue that could now see meaningful reform. Back in the boardroom, the tone is somber yet constructive. Mr. Grayson and other board members address the gathered executives, emphasizing the need for transparency, accountability, and genuine commitment to community values. They announce the formation of a new committee to oversee the bank's lending practices, ensuring that fairness and equality are not just promised but practiced. Mr. Porter, visibly shaken by the proceedings, offers a formal apology to Ruth and commits to immediate corrective actions, acknowledging that the bank must do better to serve all segments of the community. The board also extends an invitation to Ruth to join an advisory panel designed to help guide the bank's future initiatives. As Ruth re-enters the boardroom, the applause from the board members is reassuring. She realizes that her perseverance has not only secured the necessary funding for her project, but also sparked a broader initiative to combat institutional biases. As Ruth leaves the bank, the weight of the day's events feels lighter. The bank's lobby, once a place of tension and uncertainty, now holds the promise of progress, with the funding secured, and a commitment from the bank to address its shortcomings. Ruth feels a renewed sense of purpose. She steps out into the sunlight, her mind already racing with plans for her project. In the community it will serve. The battle she fought today was tough, but it was worth it for her community, for the bank, and for the many who will benefit from the change she has helped to initiate. Today's story of Ruth Daniels not only highlights individual courage and resilience, but also underscores the power of advocating for systemic change. Ruth's experience at Pinnacle First Bank teaches us several vital lessons. Persistence pays off. Ruth's determination to not be sidelined by discriminatory practices will lead to substantial changes within the bank, affecting policy and culture. Speak up for justice when faced with unfair treatment. Speaking out can initiate crucial conversations and drive change not just for oneself, but for the community impact. Each step we take to challenge inequality contributes to broader societal benefits, creating a ripple effect that can transform institutions. We encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences. In the comments below, have you ever faced similar challenges? How did you address them? Your story could inspire others to act and advocate for fairness and inclusion. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to spread awareness and support our journey of uncovering and addressing pressing societal issues. Through storytelling together, we can make a difference. Let's build a community of change makers. Join Daily Stories #1 today